Hi, this is Book Date, and I'm your host, Lisette. Um, if you saw the interview I did with Jamie P. Bradley, then you heard how I loved the title of her book, 3,000 Reasons to Stay. And um, because of that, I ended up looking at the description. And because I loved the description, I ended up buying the book. It's $1.99. That's not going to break anybody, hopefully. And um, I have to say, like, I bought it because I like supporting other authors. You don't do something like this if you don't like supporting other authors. And it was just, the book was wonderful. I mean, truly just wonderful. Some books, they're fantasy and they just, they transport you because of the location and the descriptions and whatnot. This was, um, these are people you know. These are people that you see yourself in. These are people who are imperfect. But there was never a wrong step. There was never, especially as a romance writer, um, you get to the point where you're like, oh my God, they could have solved the entire book. The book could have been 5 pages because they just needed to have a decent conversation. This is more than that. It's a contemporary military romance, but there is real conflict there, and there is real feelings. And I mean, I laughed through so much of the book. It's funny. There's other places where you just want to scream at them because they're so real. It's like when your best friend is making the biggest mistake of their life. You're like, why are you doing that? You start doing that with these characters. They really are wonderful. So because I love the book so much, I asked Jamie if I could read the first chapter to you all. I am not a professional um, uh, narrator in any way, shape, or form. That should be obvious. But I um, really wanted to share this with you, and Jamie was happy to have me do it. So this is the first chapter of 3,000 Reasons to Stay by Jamie P. Bradley, and the chapter is called Hustle. Um, Carrie is the character. Carrie Waller knew if she didn't start saying no, there was a very real chance her closest relationship would be with her phone notifications. Not no to one no to the sorry no to the last minute project requests from her boss. No to her ex-husband when he wanted her to run interference with the other hotel staff or cover an open shift on the front desk. And no to the volunteer requests from her daughter's school and sports teams, even though admitting she didn't have time for something related to the girls brought on an epic case of mom guilt. And she would tomorrow, right after she made today perfect for her best friend Gina. Ding, pick up dry cleaning 15 minutes ago. Ding, update checklist and review with Gina's wedding planner, 10 minutes. Ding, get dessert for PTA holiday fundraiser, 1 hour. Carrie skimmed the barrage of alerts and took a steadying breath. Don't kill the messenger, she thought, just as a new text message from her boss blinked on the screen. Even if it would be satisfying to crunch the damn thing under the heel of her chunky snow boots, it might even give her a few minutes peace. Just imagining violence against the electronic device momentarily eased the pressure throbbing behind her eyes as she kicked the boots off and stepped into her black slides. You're not wearing that, are you? Ignoring her sister Andrea's question and the automatic resentment that bloomed, Carrie hung her reliable little black dress swathed in dry cleaner's plastic on the back of her office door and continued to read the latest requests from her boss and former mother-in-law. This time to create and send a satisfaction survey for all the guests at Gina's wedding, the wedding of her close friend and coworker, taking place in just over 4 hours. Perfect. One more thing to do. Carrie gritted her teeth and logged into her computer with forceful jabs at the keys before glancing at Andrea, who'd flopped down in the opposite chair and propped her feet next to the miniature vintage ceramic Christmas tree glowing on the corner of the desk. Andrea's oak brown hair had been expertly curled in relaxed waves by the bridal stylist, half pulled back and pinned with pearl beads, just as Gina had wanted for her bridesmaids. Your hair looks great. Pride and excitement eased some of the anxiety, wrapping its arms around Carrie's shoulders as she imagined the finished product. Dark blue dresses, perfect makeup, her sister's beauty alongside Gina's glowing happiness. Then reality squeezed back in. You didn't leave Gina alone with her mother, did you? Relax. Mom and Grandma are busy having their makeup done. Andrea held up the device as next to her own as proof, then paused to examine her shimmering pearl manicure. They can't harass her for at least 20 minutes. And I'm just down here for a delivery. Gina wanted cheesy bread. Carrie whooshed out a relieved breath. Thank you. The message from the front desk pinged. The floral arrangements had arrived, and the setup team was putting them out. Carrie automatically updated the e-checklist she shared with the wedding planner. She still needed to check on setup, to check on setup status of the ballroom. Pray to the weather gods that the snow tapered off enough for the ceremony to be held in the courtyard like Gina wanted, arrange for the PTA dessert delivery, and send her boss the satisfaction survey. Not to mention determine if the last two groomsmen, whose flight had been impacted by the weather, had finally arrived. Carrie pressed through the familiar sense of overwhelm by reviewing her checklist, enjoying the half-second thrill of striking off the completed tasks. When she'd offered to ask as coordinator for Gina's wedding at Davidson, the downtown Wilmington, Delaware hotel where they both worked, it felt like the least she could do. Work was a gift she knew how to give, but the added pressures of the day threatened to topple the carefully constructed Jenga tower that was her sanity. Seriously, though, that dress has been done to death. We're back to this. Weary of always defending her practical choices, Carrie couldn't stop irritation from lacing the words. She pushed back from her seat to dig through her purse for a container of Tic Tacs. Andrea recrossed her legs on the desk, effortlessly sexy and carefree as usual. I'm just saying, you're single. There are going to be a ton of single Marines here tonight, dancing, drinking, and having fun. She looked up from the phone screens in her hand to assess her big sister with a raised brow. You do remember what fun is, right? Ding. Review with the wedding planner, 2 minutes. Ding. Status update on wedding party, 30 minutes. Carrie glanced at the reminders, continuing to paw through the gigantic mom purse, knowing she sounded defensive. I have fun. She paused her search to poke at the screen of her phone to text a check-in with the wedding planner. Watching her daughters play soccer was fun, as were their movie sessions when she came off a late shift. And work could be fun sometimes. Her gaze drifted to the photo of Lena and Viv on her desk, grinning at their 8th grade graduation that past spring. What does fun have to do with my dress? You should look hot, and it's not. Andrea pointed a finger at her. Honestly, when was the last time you got laid? Carrie shook her head, exasperation overflowing by choice. Andrea was partnerless, childless, didn't own a car or a home. She wasn't weighted down by any obligation besides showing up for her shifts as a traveling intensive care nurse and doing what pleased her. She loved her sister, but Andrea didn't get it. I have 2 kids, live with my mother, and work for my ex-husband and his parents. I might as well have got baggage tattooed on my forehead. Sex is just a memory. She lifted her chin, reining in the emotions. I love Gina, and I want her day with Ben to be perfect. But it is essentially a work event for me. It doesn't matter if I have fun. The epic failure that was her personal life didn't need to be dealt with today. That was a problem for tomorrow. She had other obligations. The hollowness in her chest she felt at the end of the day wasn't loneliness. It was exhaustion. You do realize all the moving parts for an event like this. I'm going to be busy the whole time. She gave up on the black hole that was her purse and tossed it aside to dive into the desk drawer for her emergency stash of the mints. It doesn't matter how I look. It's not like I'm going to meet my true love tonight or have a sexy encounter at my place of work. What matters is that it goes off without a hitch. Ah, yes, I almost forgot. If it's not in your phone calendar or something the girls or your bosses want, then it doesn't exist. Andrea shook her head with disdain. You're one wool sweater away from putting your lady bits on mothballs. And I don't like it, Carr. Not one bit. You're 34, way too young for mothballs. Carrie shook several Tic Tacs into her hand and tossed them into her mouth, relishing the familiar burn of mint. At 26, Andrea felt she was worldly enough to criticize, despite the years between them. Then again, Andrea had been speaking her mind since the day she learned to talk. Usually it was one of Carrie's favorite attributes. She shoved the sense of defeat beneath the need to move on with her day. The sooner she got Andrea to the point, the sooner she could get the next to-do done. Drake, why do you care? Maybe with Gina getting married and the holidays and all, I'm feeling sentimental. Carrie gave her sister a blank stare. Andrea grinned. Yeah, it didn't sound believable to me either. Look, I don't know. You're running around doing everything for everyone, and I just think this is a great opportunity to give them all the finger. Ah, there it was. Andrea had never understood her choice to continue working with Sam and his parents after the divorce. Carrie's heart squeezed painfully with emotion. Leave it to her big-hearted, potty-mouthed, free-bird sister to show love with a curse. A wobbly laugh escaped. That's what this is really about. You want me to quit. Ding. Verify all bridal groomsmen prep progress. 90 minutes. Ding. Sit in on food and beverage team meeting. 10 minutes. Ding. Schedule McCabe job interview 1 day ago. Carrie stared at the reminder that had been repeating hourly since the day before, when the interview offer had arrived. After a particularly frustrating week at Davidson a month earlier, a wine-fueled job search had resulted in her applying for the assistant manager role with McCabe Hotels. The position at the well-regarded employer was one that would not only be a step up in her career, but also wouldn't require a move, because Sam would forever be tied to Davidson Hotels, and Helena and Vivian were tied to their father. And therefore, so was she, no matter how ready she was for an escape. But it wasn't a task for today, if ever. She hit ignore yet again, acid churning in her stomach, and stood. Thank you. I appreciate the thought, but I'm not giving anyone the finger. It's too late for a new dress. But if it'll make you feel better, I'll let you do my makeup. She'd never been any good at the smoky eye, and Andrea was a pro. I want to check on Gina. I have to get up to a meeting, then assess setup. I think I have something, Andrea mumbled, distracted by the phones lighting up in her lap. It didn't fit me, but your tits are smaller. Suppressing a smile, Carrie headed toward the door. As her hand hit the knob, an alert announcing a change to Viv and Lena's soccer practice that day had her stifling a groan. They were already cutting it close, finishing practice just in time to dress for the wedding. Carrie closed her eyes against the sensation of drowning. No matter how she mentally rearranged the rest of her afternoon, there were too many things going on to get them to the field house and back home to get ready. She dialed Sam. Her ex's voice came on the line, Saturday sleepy and easygoing, and she tried not to let her anxiety leak through. The girls' soccer practice time got changed. Can you pick them up? I'm tied up here. Sure, I've got nothing until the wedding. Envy prickled her spine, but her voice stayed polite. Thanks. Actually, if you're not busy, the PTA is doing another cakewalk fundraiser this afternoon at the Holiday Bazaar. We're going to miss it, obviously, but I told them I would bring a dessert. I haven't had a chance to drop one off. Since you'll be at the school, could you swing by the store and bring something? I've got a lot going on here. The PTA is really your thing. Yes, but it's for our children. School. Carrie's eye began to twitch and she pressed a finger to it. You know what? Never mind. I'll take care of it. Seemingly oblivious to her frustration, Sam mumbled agreement. By the way, Wednesday afternoon, I need you at the department heads meeting. The anxiety arms around her shoulders squeezed tighter, and she fought to breathe normally. I have that afternoon off for a doctor's appointment. Her annual gyne exam. Not that it was any of his business. It's been scheduled for months. She could practically hear him shrugging an apology. Mom got the sales team from Products to commit, and we need you to be there. Being needed was nice, and maybe being handed extra work a kind of flattery of its own, but at the moment it felt like a backhanded insult. Like the time her former mother-in-law had given her Spanx for her birthday after the twins were born. Thanks? Carrie wanted nothing more than to be able to reach through the phone and shake Sam until his teeth rattled. Imagining it made her feel a little better, actually, and she let out a slow breath. Get through today. That was the goal. Then she would worry about next week. I'll see what I can do. The call ended. Carrie slumped against the door. The heavy metal cooled the knots in her back, while panic laced the edges of her vision. She was running late, and she didn't have time for a meltdown. Gina deserved a perfect wedding day, and Carrie was going to make it all happen, even if it killed her. She just had to figure out how. And that was the first chapter of 3,000 Reasons to Stay. So I hope you related to Carrie. I kind of loved her. And her hero is delicious, kind of. So yeah. I hope anyway. This has been Book Date, and I'm Lisette, and that was 3,000 Reasons to Stay by Jaime P. Bradley. And there will be a link in the description if you would like to check it out. And I hope you do. Thank you. Bye-bye.